In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a data table on Excel and subsequently create a graph of that data on Excel. So as you can see, I have a sticky here with data that I collected from a lab. In this lab, we launched the rocket from ground level and measured the altitude of the rocket, or the height off the ground, every second, and we did that for 10 seconds. I'm going to open up Excel, and in Excel, open up a workbook page. And on the workbook page, I'm going to put a title of what I'm doing, just for sake of organization. So we're going to call that the height of a rocket lab. And here, let's fancy it up, make that a little larger, and make it bold so it stands out. Now we should save this file. I'm going to save the file, just pick a folder, pick this one, and pick that one. And as you can see, I've done this before, so I'm going to create a version 3. Save that. Okay, so here's the name of my file, height of a rocket lab data version 3. When you set up your data table for the purpose of creating a graph, always make the first column the X data for the X-axis, and in the next column the Y-axis. And that'll position the information on the correct axes when you actually create the graph. I'm going to make this window a little smaller just so I can see my sticky. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the information from the sticky to the Excel file, including putting the titles of the columns as well as the units. And now I'm going to start entering the data, 0, 1, 2, 3. And there's a pattern here. And what you can do is you can have Excel extend that pattern for you. I can make this list go all the way up to 10 without actually typing in the numbers individually. What I do is I highlight the numbers that I already have there. So I press the left mouse key and pull this down. That's highlighted. Then I take my cursor, you see my cursor here, and I put it over this blue box here. And the cursor changes, see? Changes like that. And press the left key and pull that down like a window shade until I reach 10. And it does an autofill for me. Now, if I'm only going to do 10, that's not that big of a deal. But imagine if I had 500 data points and I had to write, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 500. That'd be a little annoying. So this speeds up the process. The height, what I could do is I could probably highlight this data and just copy and paste it into Excel. You can figure that out on your own. That would probably be faster. But let me enter this manually because this is an introductory video. So I want you to know the basics. 200, 450, 800, 1250, 1800, 2450, 3200, 40, 50, and 5000. Good. My data table is complete. Now later on I'm going to want to print this page, and if I print it as is, these gray lines won't appear. These gray lines are only reference for the computer screen. So what I want to do is I want to highlight the table, only the table, and I want to add borders. So I go over here to the border function, and I'm going to do all borders, so that way it creates a grid. And then I want to put a big fat border all the way around. That's called an outside border. So thick box border. Good, and it stands out a little bit. This X and Y here that I put here, that's not really important. I can just leave it. Remember, that's the reference to make sure that I put the set up the table right for future graphing. Okay, now we're at the future. We want the graph. So click on Charts, and we're going to always do scatter plots. We're going to do scatter plots of the data. So before you actually click on scatter, highlight the data that you want to create a scatter plot of, and go here. And we have 5 choices. We're never going to use these bottom ones in my course. This one here will just mark the plot the points. This one will do points and connect the points with a smooth line. And this one will just draw the smooth line. I usually like doing the line with the points. Here we go, there's our graph. So our graph is incomplete because there's no title on it or anything. So we're going to change the layout of it. So let's go to Layout. And let's go to Chart Title. Let's give it a title. And the title needs to be descriptive. So it should describe what it shows. Well, what does it show? It shows height of a rocket. So height of a rocket launched from ground. Good. Okay. I could play around with that, but that's good enough. Axis titles, horizontal axes. Well, horizontal or the x-axis, that's time. Always verify that you put that you match the label to the correct numbers. So here I go from 0 to 12 for time. Here I go from 0 to 6,000 for height, and that corresponds to my data over here. So that makes sense. Go back to axes and let's do the vertical one. Vertical, I have different choices here. I'm just going to do the rotated title, and that's height in meters. Good. Got my graph. I'm done. But remember earlier I said I'm going to want to print this. So I think what I want to do is I want to set this up over here and maybe make this a little wider. This thing that says series, well, that if I have multiple lines, it color codes it, and then that would be the legend for the color code. Since I only have one line, I don't really need this, so I'm going to get rid of it, highlight it, and delete it. Don't ever present a graph that has extraneous information on it, because that just confuses the person looking at the graph. Okay, that's my data, and we see we have some smooth pattern there that we can interpret as needed. So now I'm getting ready that I want to print this page. So if I just click print, I really have no idea what it's going to look like. So I want to limit the printing area to what I have here. So I've highlighted it, and I'm going to go print area, and I'm going to set the print area. That's all I want printed. And I've now discovered a problem. See, this blue line here is the edge of page 1. So page 1 will be this area here, and page 2 will be this area here. My graph is going to be printed over 2 pages. That's not acceptable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this graph and I'm going to move it right here underneath. And oh, you know, it worked out this time. Imagine if it was like that. The graph would be too wide. It would still print over 2 pages. So now what I'm going to do is move it like that. Okay. Now I'm going to redefine the print area and go up here. Print area, set it. There you go. Looks like everything's fine. I have all the information I need, and I can print this. And the gray grid won't show up. Only what you see in black, and I guess this blue line will show up. Okay, the blue graph line. And that's it. So I'm going to save this, and then we can print it. Okay, great. Well, that's how you make a graph.